A Boeing 737 is feared to have crashed into the sea shortly after takeoff from Jakarta, Indonesia, carrying 62 people aboard. The plane, from Sriwijaya Air and flying to the neighbouring island of West Kalimantan, took off about 2:30 p.m. local time and then disappeared off radar screens. Indonesia's Navy says it's found the coordinates of the plane and dispatched search and rescue vessels. Families await news of their loved ones at the airport where it was supposed to land. Yaman Zay is one of the waiting relatives. He says he was supposed to pick them up and that this is his first daughter. He won't be able to meet them again, he says. The flight tracking service Flight Radar 24 says the plane appears to have lost more than 10,000 feet of altitude in less than a minute. It was raining when the plane took off. The plane is a Boeing 737-500 model, which is 27 years old, much older than the troubled 737 MAX model. It was a 737 MAX that crashed off Jakarta 2 years ago, killing 189 people. But the 500 model is widely flown and does not have the system implicated in the MAX's safety crisis.
Buckingham Palace has confirmed that Britain's Queen Elizabeth and her husband, Prince Philip, have been vaccinated against the coronavirus. The announcement was made in a written statement on Saturday, and a Reuters source says the vaccines were administered by a household doctor at her Windsor Castle residence. The Queen is 94 years old and her husband 99. The source says Queen Elizabeth made the information public to counter any speculation. Earlier last year, her son, Prince Charles, tested positive but had mild symptoms. It wasn't immediately clear which vaccine the Queen received. The UK has approved the use of both the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine as well as one made jointly by AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford, and has been rolling them out to the most at-risk elderly. The UK was also the first Western country to start mass vaccinations back in early December.
Flags at the U.S. Capitol flew at half-staff Friday in honor of fallen Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died from his injuries sustained while defending the legislative building during Wednesday's riot of Trump supporters. The FBI and Washington's police department will jointly investigate the officer's death, Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen said on Friday, adding the Justice Department, quote, will spare no resources in investigating and holding accountable those responsible. President-elect Joe Biden on Friday offered his condolences to the fallen officer's family.
Our sympathies and our concerns go out to his family, and the people responsible should be held accountable.
In stark contrast, as of Friday afternoon, President Donald Trump was silent on the matter. Officer Sicknick and 4 others died after supporters of the president on Wednesday stormed the Capitol, vandalizing federal property, terrorizing lawmakers and journalists, and even walking away with stolen items, including a laptop from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. A man who is pictured sitting at Pelosi's desk and a West Virginia state lawmaker are among those facing federal charges, prosecutors said on Friday. Suspects could face charges including sedition, insurrection, and rioting, according to D.C.'s top federal prosecutor, who said no suspects in Wednesday's riots would be ruled out, even when asked whether this could include Capitol Police, who may have been complicit, or Trump himself for urging protesters to march.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
The brother-in-law of a woman killed in the rioting said Trump fueled the mayhem.
It's my own personal belief that the president's words incited a riot that killed 4 of his biggest fans last night, and I believe that we should invoke the 25th Amendment at this time.
Dozens of arrests have been made, and the FBI is continuing its search for suspects, knocking on doors in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, asking for security videos, and asking the public to submit tips, beyond what was already caught on video and in photos. Some of the rioters, whose identities were publicized by internet sleuths, faced other repercussions, getting fired from their jobs. That includes a man who wore his work ID badge while inside the Capitol. He was quickly identified and fired by his employer, a marketing company out of Maryland. The FBI is also offering a reward of up to $50,000 for information on who placed a pipe bomb in the Democratic and Republican committee headquarters on Wednesday.
And the question for the country is, how could that happen?
Meanwhile, dismayed lawmakers are demanding investigations into how the Capitol Police, a 2,000-member force dedicated to guarding the Capitol grounds, and other agencies, allowed this to happen in the first place.
Take that house! Take it now!
Just hours after his personal Twitter account was permanently suspended, U.S. President Donald Trump said late on Friday he would be looking into building his own social media platform. Saying, quote, "We will not be silenced," Trump sent his latest tweets from the official government account, POTUS, accusing Twitter of coordinating with, quote, "Democrats and the radical left," and banning free speech. Twitter later deleted the posts on Friday and also suspended Trump's campaign account, Team Trump, for violating its rules. The company said accounts used by Trump to try to get around the Twitter ban could also face permanent suspension under its ban evasion policies. Trump still has access to the official White House and POTUS accounts, but will lose this when his presidential term ends. Twitter had permanently suspended his personal account, Real Donald Trump, earlier on Friday, citing the possibility he could incite more violence after hundreds of his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol this week. In a statement on Friday, Twitter said they were suspending the account, quote, "after close review of recent tweets from the Real Donald Trump account and the context around them, specifically how they are being received and interpreted on and off Twitter." Twitter specifically pointed to two of the president's Friday tweets as a violation of its policy against the glorification of violence. With the permanent suspension, Trump loses perhaps his most powerful megaphone, with 88 million followers. Twitter had temporarily blocked Trump's account earlier this week following the violence at the Capitol on Wednesday, and warned that additional violations by the president's accounts would result in a permanent suspension.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has called the United States our biggest enemy and called for more advanced nuclear weaponry, underlying the challenge President-elect Joe Biden may face with North Korea when he takes office. Kim was speaking during a rare party congress in Pyongyang on Saturday. Kim added that North Korea would not misuse its nuclear weapons, but that preemptive and retaliatory strike capabilities were being stockpiled, as well as warheads of varying sizes.
No matter who's in power in the U.S., the true nature of the U.S. and its fundamental policies toward us never change. We should strategically establish foreign policy against the U.S. and expand ties with anti-imperialist independent forces.
State news agency KCNA also reported Kim saying that the dropping of Washington's hostile policies would be key to improving North Korea-US relations. Kim had 3 historic meetings with President Donald Trump before negotiations broke down. Biden has previously called him a thug, and Kim has called him a rabid dog that needs to be beaten to death.
Many families in India are in mourning after a massive fire struck a hospital's maternity ward there. At least 10 infants died in the blaze, which broke out at 2 a.m. in the state of Maharashtra, although some newborns were saved. This man, Raj Kumar Dahakar, witnessed the disaster and rushed in to help.
The fire was huge. It was all black. We weren't able to get inside. Our eyes were burning. We weren't able to see anything. Then we came down and went back up using the firefighter's ladder, broke down the door, and after breaking the door, we were able to save 7.
It's not immediately clear what caused the tragedy.
2020 has tied with 2016 as the world's warmest year on record. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service said on Friday that rounds off the world's hottest decade as the impact of climate change intensified. In 2020, wildfires were seen in Australia, California, and even Siberia. Europe experienced its hottest year on record, and warming in the Arctic shrank the ice covering the polar ocean to record-setting levels in July and October. Temperatures there and in northern Siberia averaged more than 42 degrees Fahrenheit above a 30-year average used as a baseline. August saw the highest temperature ever reliably recorded when a California heat wave pushed the temperature of the Mojave Desert up to 129.92 Fahrenheit.
2016, the previously.
Freya Van Borg, a Copernicus senior scientist, explains the long-term implications.
So, of course, we know that temperatures globally have increased by over a degree since the pre-industrial era, because indeed the last 6 years have been the warmest 6 years on record. And large part of the reason why they were so warm is due to this warming trend.
2020 was also synonymous with the COVID-19 crisis, and climate activists hailed global lockdowns as a win for slashing greenhouse emissions. Freya says it's a bit more complicated than that.
If we look at a year like last year, due to COVID, there was a reduction, at least in some emissions, fossil CO2 emissions, for instance, but that's just a reduction in emissions. We're still adding to the atmosphere, because it's not the emissions that count, it's the concentration in the end. I got a question by someone else, should we lose hope if a year like COVID year doesn't even help? But the answer is that it hasn't helped. It's just that it's not visibly helped, because you're not expecting that to be visible until you have several of those years, which in the end will make a difference.
Scientists said the latest data underscored the need for countries and corporations to slash greenhouse gas emissions quickly enough to reach the goals of the 2015 Paris Agreement and to avoid catastrophic climate change.